Beneath the ominous sky of a fateful battle, the world's sole mage stands against the most terrifying foe of his life. The so-called silver-rank skeleton warrior, seemingly invincible, finds itself powerless against a single crystal. As the man crushes the gem in his grasp, the skeleton warrior disintegrates into ashes. Even my summoning skills have completely failed. In truth, when Lin challenged me with a mere 5.000 points, I scoffed, thinking it was nothing more than a grain of sand in the desert. I raised a finger and declared, 100.000 points, if you can't match that, you're not worthy of challenging me. Hearing this, Lin burst into laughter, smugly asking, do you even know what 100.000 points signifies? Even selling you wouldn't fetch 100.000 points. I didn't bother explaining further. I staked all my points in this gamble. Whoever loses must pay the other the corresponding points. My confident words left Lin momentarily speechless. As the challenger, refusing to accept would be utterly humiliating. After a moment of deep contemplation, he finally agreed. Witnessing this, Bai Shen began to ridicule him as a fool. Although Elder Mang smiled, he remarked, that kid has fought numerous times in recent days. He must have at least 300.000 points. The director merely scoffed, saying, that's hardly a noble path. At this moment, Lin and I stepped onto the battlefield. The crowd below erupted with excitement, finally getting a chance to witness a match against the great Lin. In response, Lin displayed disdain, sneering, what's this? Your so-called national status before me is nothing but zero. I simply responded with an icy calm. Your rank is lower than mine. This statement ignited his fury, making him seethe. How dare a country bumpkin like you compare yourself to me? Yet I stood firm, reiterating, your rank is indeed lower than mine. He was left speechless, only able to retort, didn't your family teach you how to speak? The scoundrel's words made my gaze turn as cold as ice, piercing through him like a deathly chill. In an instant, he was so intimidated by my aura that he nearly wet himself. Yet, like before in the dungeon, he quickly regained his composure, relying on his summoning skills and the devastating power of the undead. Without corpses to summon, what makes you any different from a worthless wretch? I wasted no words and directly summoned the skeleton warrior. If this weren't an academy, you'd have been dead by now. In the blink of an eye, the skeleton warrior towered over him. Just as the blade was about to fall, Lin quickly pulled out a shard of glass. As the glass shattered, the skeletal warrior above him instantly turned to dust. And in that moment, I realized that my summoning magic had been sealed. At that moment, Lin smugly declared, this is a summoning talisman I specially prepared for you. Let's see what you'll use to fight against me. With that, he raised his staff and began chanting an incantation. Fiery flames began to gather ominously. Realizing this, Elder Man immediately deduced that someone was plotting against me, as Lin should not have been able to obtain such a high-level summoning talisman. Before he could finish his thought, a rain of fire descended upon me. Yet, I remained calm, activating my high cock armor. As the flames completely engulfed me, Lin laughed with glee. How does it feel to be burned alive, however? As the flames receded, I emerged unscathed. Witnessing this, Lin's laughter faded, replaced by disbelief. It can't be. My most powerful skill had no effect on him. Frustrated, he unleashed a barrage of other skills. I stood my ground, refusing to dodge, letting his attacks rain down on me. Yet, none could harm me. Disheartened, I coldly remarked, your skills are far too weak. With that, I swiftly hurled a soul towards him. Amidst the flames, a wretched scream escaped his lips. In the blink of an eye, blood began to pour from 7 orifices. Fortunately, a divine healer appeared just in time, saving him from certain death. The crowd below the arena broke into a cold sweat. Terrified, this new student was truly terrifying. With just one skill, he could bring down a senior. As I approached slowly, fear overwhelmed Lin, causing him to kneel and plead. As long as you spare my life, I'll give you all my points. No sooner had he spoken than the referee declared the match a victory for me. According to our agreement, Lin was to pay me 358.000 points. Upon hearing this, Lin was left stupefied. Is that a mistake? I've only just arrived at the academy. How do you have so many points? The referee shot Lin a cold look. Filled with suspicion, are you implying that I'm lying? Realizing the weight of his promise, Lin quickly bowed his head in apology. If that's the case, then hurry up and pay. However, he clearly didn't have enough points. Thus, the referee had no choice but to allocate what Lin had to me, demanding that he make up the difference within 6 months, or face expulsion from the academy. Before long, my account balance surged to 128.000 points. I then gradually stepped off the arena beside Lin. At that very moment, Bach then sent me a message, notifying me that we would depart for the original battlefield in an hour. Therefore, I headed to the trading post, selling off surplus gear and reaping a total of 2 million gold. After finishing my business, I sought out Bok Than. Under Elder Man's guidance, Bok Than and I emerged outside the Than Tower. Once again, the forces of the Than Tower led us to the old battlefield. Strangely, despite it being my first visit, I sensed a familiar aura. We then proceeded towards the human base. The soldiers immediately took notice of the 5-star insignia on Bai Shen's uniform. Without hesitation, they greeted him with the highest honors of humanity. Witnessing this scene left me in awe. Is that really the power of his influence? Bai Shen, noticing my puzzled expression, explained, "Kid, I can see what you're thinking." They didn't recognize the man, they only acknowledged the insignia on my chest. We quickly made our way to the military certification office, but the staff were too busy gaming to pay us any mind. However, when Bai Shen demanded he process my certification, the man instinctively erupted, "Who's the blind fool bothering me for a certificate?" Yet, when he caught sight of Bai Shen's 5-star insignia, he nearly wet himself, exclaiming, "Oh my god, 5-star Marshal Bai Shen is bringing a rookie for certification." In an instant, he scrambled to prepare my certification. After receiving the insignia, Bai Shen began to explain its significance. By defeating monsters on the original battlefield, you could earn military merit. Once your military merit reached a certain threshold, the insignia would upgrade automatically. The highest rank of a battle is demotion. The stars on the insignia also represent the amount of military merit you've accrued in battles. The more military merit you have, the higher your star rank. Each battle is divided into 5-star ranks. After the introduction, Bai Shen mentioned he would take me to another place. We quickly headed to the Soul Chamber. Here, I learned that this was a sacred site honoring the wise sages across the ages. Under the protection of the divine, each ethereal mark floating in the air represented a hero who had sacrificed themselves on the battlefield. The spiritual energy they left behind would eternally safeguard the divine lower empire. After speaking, Bai Shen clasped his hands in reverence, bowing his head in prayer. Ancestors of the divine lower empire. Bai Yi Yuan, I humbly ask for your protection over the future generations. As soon as he finished, the Mask Tower, one of the 3 divine towers, suddenly blazed with brilliance. A beam of light enveloped me, and I watched as a golden star on Bai Shen's insignia gradually faded away. The Mask Tower has marked your spirit. Thus, even if you are vanquished on the original battlefield, we have a way to resurrect you. Hearing this, I was taken aback. Bai Shen was willing to expend a heart of military merit just to leave me a thread of life. When pursued by monsters on the original battlefield, I began to view the monsters as prey, continuously enhancing my military merit. In less than 10 minutes, my military merit reached an extraordinary level, and even the Scythe of Death was finally upgraded. It turned out that just moments ago, Bai Shen had sacrificed a star of military merit to grant me a spiritual mark. So, if I perish on the original battlefield, I can resurrect once more. Then, he told me that there are many portals to the side quests on the original battlefield. And lurking around could be deep monsters. They will prevent people from entering the side quests, hence, you need to acquire many items that can be sent back to the fortress. After arranging everything, Bai Shen bid me farewell and said, "We shouldn't delay. I will leave the city at once to begin the monster hunt." But barely had I stepped outside the city gate when I was ambushed by an unknown creature. Moreover, it was a spirit I couldn't see. As the skeletal legion of Wang Ling launched their attack, the shape of the monster immediately manifested. The skeletal warrior struck at its body with a swift slash. Surprisingly, it remained completely unharmed. Only when I glanced at its attributes did I understand. It turned out it had a passive skill that rendered it immune to physical damage. Thus, I promptly summoned the skeletal mage. If physical damage was ineffective, then let us try elemental attacks. As the skeletal mage's spells rained down, the battlefield of souls was instantly engulfed in flames. Shortly after, a wisp of soul fell into my hands. I was astonished that this could enhance the power of my weaponry. But at that moment, I dared not let my guard down. If physical immunity existed here, then there could also be monsters resistant to magic, or even those immune to both. Just as I was heading towards the portal to the side quest, 3 figures suddenly appeared, frantically fleeing. Behind them was a horde of deep monsters. When the men reached me, they hurriedly urged me to run, but I charged straight toward the monsters. Seeing this, they screamed that I was surely doomed. Behind them were hundreds of deep monsters. Yet when I noticed the remnants of human bodies in the mouths of the beasts, my killing intent surged within me. All of you shall perish. With that, I immediately summoned the skeletal warrior and the skeletal mage. Moments later, the elemental strikes from the skeletal mage descended upon the swarm of monsters. The skeletal warrior joined the fray without hesitation. As the first monster was brought down, The insignia on my chest began to accumulate military merit. Simultaneously, the Scythe of Death absorbed a portion of the Deep Soul. At this rate, I only needed to slay 30 more to level up. Therefore, I unleashed the Corpse Explosion skill on the fallen monsters. With a resounding blast, my military merit skyrocketed, and the Scythe of Death upgraded by 2 levels. Meanwhile, in a dark cavern, a pair of blood-red eyes suddenly opened. Upon sensing the absence of his minions, he immediately thought he had encountered a formidable opponent. So, he unleashed another wave of minions, continuing the hunt for his next meal. At that moment, I had discovered the entrance to the dungeon. Yet, in the eyes of others, I was merely a rookie. Gazing into the depths of the dungeon, I realized it was of hellish difficulty. Eager for a new experience, I resolved to challenge this infernal level of difficulty. Upon seeing this, my compatriots from the Divine Shah wanted to dissuade me. But it was too late. The two exchanged glances in disbelief. He truly dared to enter alone. The other, from the Orchard Kingdom, merely smirked. Let's see how long this reckless kid can last in there. With that, he immediately tossed out a set of dungeon detection gear. Moments later, the information about the dungeon appeared. The hellish difficulty was designed for a single player. Upon seeing this result, my compatriots from Washaw felt a wave of despair wash over them. Entering the dungeon alone was already perilous, and choosing the highest difficulty level made it even more daunting. Truly, it was a matter of life and death. Meanwhile, the man from the Orchard Kingdom mocked. How long do you think he can survive in there? Finishing his taunt, a man drew his sword and pointed it at him. You little brat from the Orchard Kingdom dared to provoke the Divine Shah? If you wish to live, keep your mouth shut. On the other side, as I stepped into the dungeon, an unsettling sensation washed over me. It seemed my storage space had been restricted. I couldn't use potions or support items. Nor could I teleport. My only option was to complete the dungeon to escape. Just then, I was spotted by a patrol of monsters. They charged straight toward me. To my surprise, even though they were mere foot soldiers, their attributes exceeded those of the marauders in the desert. I couldn't afford to underestimate them, so I summoned over 10 undead warriors for defense. But in the blink of an eye, my undead warriors were stunned. Within moments, I lost 3 of them. Unable to engage in close combat, I summoned undead mages to attack from a distance. Alongside my undead warriors' encirclement, I swiftly obliterated the monsters. However, this battle made me more cautious. Despite the numerous undead warriors, once stunned by the monsters, their chances of survival plummeted to nearly 0. Yet, this also piqued my interest. Until now, conquering dungeons had been child's play. This was the first time I faced a dungeon that required genuine caution. Even though I was exceedingly careful, I was still detected by the second Dragon Cleric squad. This left me marveling at the dungeon's difficulty. Admittedly, I had to summon undead warriors to draw their attention. But unexpectedly, the dispatched undead warriors were ensnared by some force. I instantly recognized it as the control skill of the mage, Gasso's Wind. It turned out they possessed a modicum of intelligence, even employing simple tactics. Thus, I was compelled to utilize a swarm strategy once again. By overwhelming them with sheer numbers, I finally managed to take down a few dragon soldiers. But the cost was 5 of my undead warriors. Just then, a dragon mage launched a surprise attack on my undead mage, clearly aware that the undead mage posed a greater threat. Nevertheless, my keen senses caught their actions just in time, prompting me to unleash the Soul Fire for a counterattack. The Soul Fire, unimpeded by defenses, swiftly obliterated them. To my astonishment, upon their demise, they dropped the essential material for the divine, a dragon horn. However, the drop rate is truly disheartening. After vanquishing so many monsters, only a single item drops. I recall the injured undead warriors and press deeper into the dungeon. Little did I know, this hellishly difficult dungeon hides a monumental secret. As the final boss of the dungeon fell, I accidentally unlocked a unique hidden title, Dragon Warlord, gaining a transformation that others would take 40 chapters to achieve. It turns out, after I defeated the second wave of dragon soldiers, a dragon horn unexpectedly dropped. Yet, the amount needed for the quest is still far from reach. I resumed my search for the traces of the dragon beasts. Before long, I encountered the third wave of dragon soldiers. To minimize losses among my undead warriors, I employed my familiar monster dragging strategy once again. Combining my slowing curse skill, I successfully controlled all the dragon soldiers. I then commanded my undead warriors to counterattack. At that moment, I returned to the academy, where Old Man immediately noticed the military merit on me. Missing 1 point, it turns out, he truly values it highly. He didn't hesitate to spend a point of military merit to inscribe a mark on me. Hearing this, I could only smile faintly. It's just a small amount of military merit, compared to Lam Mac and that kid. It's hardly significant. Besides, I also need him in the dungeon to gather enough materials. Just then, Old Man's expression turned serious. The dungeon at the dragon front has a geographical difficulty. Did you remind him not to recklessly challenge it? Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. I had indeed forgotten about this. Is that kid really planning to test the hellish difficulty? Hearing that, Old Man quickly reassured me. You don't need to worry too much. He's leading 39 others. Completing a major dungeon is a breeze for him. He'll likely just face a bit of hardship. Moreover, he still carries the spiritual mark that you inscribed on him. He won't die. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, I had eliminated all the dragon soldiers. However, the progress of the dungeon was only 1/3 complete, and my undead warriors had suffered heavy losses. I must admit, the hellish difficulty of this dungeon is truly overwhelming. I needed to find out what kind of monster the final boss would be. After nearly 2.5 hours of relentless battle, I finally defeated the last boss within the castle. Just as I commanded my undead warriors to storm the stronghold, a skeletal warrior behind me was suddenly struck down by an unseen attack. The unexpected strike heightened my alertness. Only formidable monsters could eliminate skeletal warriors at such speed. Shortly after, another skeletal warrior fell victim to a similar attack. Once again, I watched as it was obliterated right before my eyes. Instantly, I recognized that it was yet another invisible monster. I ordered my skeletal mages to launch a wide-area attack. As the strikes from the mages rained down, the creature lurking in the void was swiftly revealed. Its cloak of invisibility shattered. At the same time, their attributes materialized before me. Upon seeing those extreme stats, I finally understood why the skeletal warriors had fallen so rapidly. However, now that their invisibility was broken, they were no longer a significant threat. Almost immediately, the skeletal warriors counterattacked. My mages quickly dispatched them with a sealing spell, acquiring a dragon heart essential for the mission. Just then, a horde of swordsmen leapt down from the castle wall. I hastily activated the bone armor for defense and promptly commanded my skeletal troops. He hurled the bodies of the assassins towards them. As the corpses neared, I unleashed a powerful explosion skill. A thunderous blast erupted, creating a massive explosion against the city wall. The sheer force obliterated a cluster of archers, leaving behind a single drop of dragon blood. With no archers to obstruct us, the skeletal warriors surged into the city. Yet, I still couldn't spot the enemy's final figure. Just as I was pondering, a colossal statue beside me began to crumble. As the stone shattered and fell, a terrifying dragon leader emerged before me, radiating an ominous aura. At that moment, his attributes appeared before me. Feeling the chilling pressure and sensing his characteristics, I couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Instantly, I retreated to a safe distance. Simultaneously, the dragon leader roared in fury, unleashing a torrent of wild power from within. Sensing his intent to attack, I swiftly cast the binding curse, ensnaring him tightly. Immediately after, he was met with elemental assaults from my skeletal mages. I believed this onslaught would inflict severe damage upon him, but the outcome was far from what I expected. He activated his resistance skill, rendering him impervious to all attacks. Even the slow effect I had applied on him diminished significantly. The skeletal warriors surrounding him fell one by one, effortlessly struck down by his might. In an instant, he swung his weapon down with tremendous force, shaking the ground. As soon as the weapon hit the ground, all undead warriors within 100 meters were stunned, causing me to lose 12 of them. Witnessing this, my expression instantly grew tense. While I could summon more undead warriors, my mental strength couldn't withstand such a drain. Therefore, I immediately summoned the Phantom General, Shihia. To my surprise, the undead warriors under his command instantly snapped out of their stunned state. Seeing this, I was overjoyed. With this, the boss's control skill would no longer be a threat. Immediately, all the undead warriors charged forward, attacking in unison with the strikes of the undead mages, quickly depleting half of the dragon leader's health. In pain, the dragon leader used a wide-area stun skill again. However, under General Wang Lin's command, the stun effect no longer affected the undead warriors. In less than 2 seconds, the stun effect completely disappeared. Just as I thought victory was within reach, the dragon leader suddenly charged at me, clearly aware that I was his greatest threat. Fortunately, the Sea Abyss armor managed to withstand his powerful attack. Seizing the moment when he paused his attack, I immediately hurled a soul flame. It wasn't a defensive flame, but a soul flame that instantly made him let out a dreadful scream. With elemental strikes relentlessly raining down from the undead mages, the dragon leader finally ran out of his last drop of health. As he fell, I immediately received a title. It turned out to be a hidden reward for a solo player who conquered the Hell-level dragon dungeon. Not only did it boost all my attributes by 500, but it also reduced resource consumption by 50%. On top of that, I earned a class change certificate. While others could only become food for the demons in the abyss, I saw these terrifying creatures as an opportunity to accumulate military merit. With my own strength alone, I wiped out hundreds of demon hounds that were surrounding everyone. This left the other students utterly stunned. It turned out that after I defeated the dragon leader in the hell level dungeon, I not only earned the exclusive title, Dragon Slayer, but also gathered more than 1/3 of the necessary materials. My level had also risen to 23. Consequently, my skills had upgraded to level 23 as well. Most importantly, my attributes had not only improved significantly but also reduced skill consumption by 50%. This meant I could summon double the number of skeletons compared to before. Thus, the difficulty of overcoming the hellish dungeon would be greatly lessened. Therefore, I decided to exit the dungeon to refresh my cooldown time and continue gathering materials. But as soon as I teleported out, I was met with a scene of corpses strewn about like in hell. The stench of blood in the air made me grimace. Hence, I immediately activated my bone armor for protection. At that moment, several demons charged at me from behind, followed by a large horde of them. Seeing this, I quickly summoned my skeletal warriors to fend off the demons surrounding me. However, just as I was about to summon the skeletal mage to fight, a sudden attack struck around me, sending demons flying. I saw a young man leading a team to offer support. "Young man, come here quickly. This place is besieged by abyssal demons." Once I was safe, they allowed me to use teleportation to return to the fortress. However, instead of taking their advice, I questioned them why they were risking their lives by remaining here. With their strength, they could easily break free from this encirclement. It turned out they were waiting for those from the divine lower kingdom who hadn't emerged from the dungeon yet. Meanwhile, those from the Cherry Blossom Nation could only become sacrifices to the demons. At that moment, a cleric discovered that there was no one left in the dungeon. As a result, they immediately notified everyone to start retreating, but I stood still, unmoving. "You all go ahead. Let me clean this up and I will return to the dungeon." After saying this, I promptly summoned my army of skeletons, along with the skeletal mage beginning to chant. A relentless barrage of elemental attacks rained down upon the demons. The skeletal warriors took charge of harvesting the surviving demons. In a short time, countless demons had fallen. Witnessing this scene, several people couldn't help but be astonished. They could hardly imagine that the terrifying demons were unable to withstand the young man right before their eyes. But the next scene completely shattered their perceptions. I slowly raised my hand, a crimson light enveloping it. In an instant, a devastating explosion erupted on the battlefield, unleashing a wave of energy. The visual impact and destruction it caused left those behind in stunned silence. The military points I earned from annihilating the horde of demons directly upgraded my rank to a newly minted 1-star soldier. Even the Scythe of Death, after absorbing the souls from the abyss, ascended to level 3, granting me an additional 300 points in spiritual attributes. As I savored the sweetness of victory, I unleashed my explosive skills to obliterate the remaining demon beasts. A few onlookers couldn't help but think that I was undoubtedly a genius from a prestigious academy. But in that moment, one young man seemed to have a sudden realization, his expression turning grave. He must be the young man who entered the hellish dungeon. Good heavens, he really conquered the hellish dungeon all by himself. As they stood in awe, my military rank soared to 2 stars, and my death scythe reached level 4. The surge in spirit points with each level up only heightened my anticipation for what surprises awaited me at the next ascent. I glanced around the battlefield littered with the corpses of demon beasts. But I still felt an insatiable hunger for more. Unfortunately, there were just over 200 demon beasts to slay. If only there were more abyssal monsters to confront. After the battle, the remaining warriors slumped to the ground. Anxiety etched on their faces. They murmured about how perilous the battlefield truly was. Their captain approached me, expressing his gratitude. He introduced himself as a level 31 holy knight from the Lower Capital Academy. Upon hearing that he was from the same institution, I politely shook his hand and revealed that I too hailed from the Lower Capital Academy. A level 23 Necromancer. The man appeared intrigued. Which cohort did this new student come from? I replied that I had just attended the opening ceremony yesterday. No sooner had I spoken than his shield clattered heavily to the ground. "So, you're just a freshman? A once feared hell-level dragon leader?" Who had been seen as a harbinger of death, now lay at my mercy. Even when drained of its last drop of blood, it posed no threat to me. I had promised a KHA I'd train with him, but upon hearing I was heading back to the hellish dungeon, a KHA looked utterly flabbergasted. After all, Chow lacked 10, level 30, merely mentioned bringing him along, and the thought of nightmares made him transform into a starry-eyed fan, gazing at me with admiration. Incredible, I've been dying to see the hellish dungeon. However, Chow Lak Tin stood nearby, secretly pleased, believing this to be a mere ploy to impress the ladies. He thought a KHA might just return to seek him out. Before long, a KHA and I arrived at the teleportation gate of the dungeon. I promptly equipped my cooldown gear and reset the dungeon's respawn timer. As our figures vanished through the dungeon gate, the onlookers were left dumbfounded. Oh my god, I can't be mistaken, they actually entered the Hell level. The last team to conquer the Hell level had come from the Shining Academy. They were doomed. The moment we stepped into the dungeon, a set of bone armor materialized around a KHA. He instantly understood that this was a defensive skill for his protection. Observing my calm demeanor, he felt an overwhelming sense of security. With the experience from previous dungeons, this time, the skeletal army easily wiped out the dragon soldiers. However, this speed made Aka's eyes shine with excitement. Seeing you so relaxed, perhaps this isn't even your full power yet. I replied coldly. This dungeon was indeed not difficult. A KHA couldn't help but glance at me, his expression one of surprise. While others were struggling in the nightmarish dungeon, my Hell level seemed easier than their nightmare level. Soon, my skeletal army moved forward through the dungeon with relentless determination. The pace of our hellish journey quickened as we swiftly approached the castle where the final boss awaited. Before entering, I asked a KHA about the mission. Besides the Golden Dragon line, was there anything else we needed? A KHA handed me a ring, stating that the first mission was complete. This ring belonged to the Goblin King, the finest accessory for those under level 40, enhancing all skills by 1. The crafting material was the goblin gold I had gifted him. While he was boasting, I suddenly yanked him aside. Just then, a dragon assassin appeared right where he had stood. A KHA broke into a cold sweat, unable to believe that such a stealthy creature lurked in a hellish dungeon. However, his profession had a skill for detecting invisibility, so he quickly activated the ability to see through, starting the hunt for the hidden assassin. Before long, all the assassins around us were eradicated. A KHA looked at me with satisfaction, saying, "Miss, you still have some use, right?" When he saw that I had become a 2-star rookie, he was taken aback. Immediately after, he punched my chest lightly in frustration and said, "Your military achievements far surpass mine. From now on, you must lead me." After promising him, we stood before the statue of the dragon leader. After I equipped him with the bone armor, I instructed him to step back. It was the first time a KHA saw me being so cautious, though puzzled. He obediently complied, observing from a distance, as the stone fragments from the statue slowly began to fall away. The terrifying dragon leader was resurrected once more. A KHA, watching from afar, was overwhelmed by the aura emanating from him. Immediately, I cast a slowing curse to restrain its movements. Just like before, the dragon leader unleashed a skill to enhance its resistance. In an instant, it shattered the slow curse, then activated the retreating formation skill, causing the ground around us to shatter momentarily. Even a KHA, standing at a distance, was thrown back, but I relied not only on the bone armor to withstand this tidal wave of force. Moreover, I unleashed the soul flames to retaliate, instantly summoning General Wang Ling to awaken the military skeletons from their stupor. The skeletal warriors began their counterattack against the dragon leader, who, infuriated, unleashed its fury in response. In a moment of sheer focus, I successfully summoned all the skeletal warriors, rendering the boss's skills utterly ineffective. As the echoes of battle faded away, I summoned the skeletons again, even stronger than before. This significantly reduced the losses on my side. After enduring the fierce assault from the skeletal horde, the formidable leader of the dragon clan was easily defeated by me, granting me valuable experience. A KHA, still in a daze, leveled up unexpectedly and received a surprise promotion certificate. He hugged me tightly, overwhelmed with excitement. As my euphoria from receiving the promotion certificate subsided, he shyly stepped back, hurriedly explaining that he had simply been too joyful. Just then, while I handed the golden dagger dropped by the boss to a Kakthap, the team of Hungnan stood at the dungeon entrance with grave expressions. A high-ranking demon was leading a pack of abyssal hounds, cornering them. The abyssal demons before me seemed as insignificant as ants, and despite their ferocious efforts, they couldn't breach my defenses, which I fortified with a mere flicker of soulfire. The swift execution of my enemies left everyone around me looking at me with newfound respect. It turned out that in the desert, death itself had descended upon the battlefield to avenge its offspring, yet it still lived. In the human camp, sensing my rage, he commanded his hounds to feast upon everyone. In an instant, the air was filled with anguished cries. And just at that moment, Chu Neuk Tin's team teleported out from the dungeon. But the sight of the hounds left them speechless, their mouths agape. Unable to think, he hurriedly activated the defensive skill of the Holy Knight. enveloping his teammates in a protective golden orb. This fierce defense granted them a temporary reprieve from disaster. But as they gazed upon the battlefield, the overwhelming mass of hounds sent cold sweat trickling down their backs. At that moment, Thatch hung and warned them of a demon above. The abyssal demon loomed ominously over him. But as it prepared to attack, Chu Neok Tin simply smiled, dismissing the threat. "You won't break through my defensive aura," he thought confidently. However, before he could finish his sentence, the demon's colossal scythe came crashing down on his shield with terrifying force, sending him flying until he crashed into a rock, barely avoiding death with that blow. Witnessing such a spectacle, everyone couldn't help but rub their foreheads in disbelief. How powerful could the legendary Holy Knight really be? It turned out to be nothing but trash. At that moment, the demon also took notice of Chu Neok Tin's profession, realizing that he was capable of slaying a legendary Holy Radiant Knight right here. Chu Neok Tin had indeed grown formidable. In a rush, I declared that I had sent out a distress signal, and soon, powerful warriors of humanity would arrive, intending to intimidate the demons and make a quick escape. Yet, the demon remained unmoved, its intent clear: to kill me and claim credit for itself. In this moment of peril, Akak and I were teleported out of the dungeon. At that very instant, the demon's movements came to a halt. It caught a whiff of a familiar scent on me, the scent of the one who had slain its child. Its rage boiled, and I could see the hatred in its eyes as it loomed over me. A massive shadow ready to strike. Just a second later, its colossal hand swung toward me with lethal intent. Meanwhile, I felt the backlash of my skills being punished. After the penalty, I wore a sneer. Did they not eat? Everyone around me breathed a sigh of relief. But hearing this, the demon went berserk, launching a furious assault on me. Yet, despite its relentless attacks, it could not break through my defenses. Seizing the opportunity during its onslaught, I unleashed the flames of my soul. The fiery blaze ignited its head, and this single blow stripped it of its will to fight. It began to panic and retreat. But how could I let it escape? I swiftly cast a circle of curses. The next demon was ensnared in the air, unable to move, along with the Tham Win Ma Kian on the battlefield. Both immobilized, the demon struggled fiercely but soon realized it was utterly trapped. Akak Phut witnessed this scene unfold. He had long anticipated that even the ordinary monsters in this hellish dungeon were more formidable than himself. At this moment, I summoned an army of skeletons to begin cleansing the Tham Win Ma Kian. In this moment, despair filled the hearts of the demons. Soon, the corpses erupted in a relentless display of skill, exploding within the pack of demons. In the end, only scattered remains of the defeated demons were left. As one by one, they fell. With each demon I vanquished, I earned 50 points of military merit and obtained rare materials from the elite demons. My death scythe reached level 7, granting me an additional 2.100 points of mental power. Through this battle, my rank skyrocketed to a 5-star sergeant. Even a KHA received a significant amount of military merit points. Watching me stand tall amidst the clouds, as Chu Neok Thang basked in the admiration of others, he was momentarily dazed, forgetting that I had rescued him from the demon's clutches. Secretly, he vowed to one day make me kneel before him, begging for forgiveness, and to claim a KHA as his own. His fury hidden in the shadows, the mysterious demon finally unleashed its wrath. Just a fragment of its original consciousness descended upon the battlefield, scattering my protective team of powerful warriors. It was one of the 7 great demon lords, the Fire Demon. After I had dealt with all the Tham Win demons, I first inquired about the situation of the team members. Thatch Hungen and Ban Nham Hungen. The latter patted the golden shield in his hand, signaling that everything was fine. Thanks to your shield, I managed to gather sufficient gear. Just then, a contingent of warriors approached from afar, bringing a sense of reassurance. A single glance revealed the presence of the Eternal Great Wall's guard squad, clearly responding to a distress signal. However, what they didn't anticipate was that by the time they arrived, the battle had already concluded, leaving behind a scene of chaos and the gruesome aftermath of fallen foes. Their shock was palpable as they began to inquire among the crowd. "What happened here?" they asked, desperately seeking the source of the distress signal. The captain of the guard, initially skeptical that a level 23 rookie could achieve such a feat, was stunned into silence upon seeing the 5-star badge adorning my chest. It dawned on him, this was indeed a 5-star achievement. No small feat. You must have taken down quite a few of those demon shifters to earn this medal, he remarked, impressed. I will relay everything that transpired here back to headquarters. Just then, a striking pair entered the scene, led by a formidable woman, Shang-in, a divine summoner. In an instant, I recognized her as Princess Ma of the Hakka clan. Her beauty was undeniable, and her legendary profession only added to her allure. capturing the admiration of the men around. She spoke, her voice cutting through the tension, inquiring about the earlier distress signal. The guard captain, eager to divulge the details, filled her in on the lack of further threats. As I prepared to slip away from the crowd, I caught the attention of a nearby soldier. The aura I exuded repulsed him, yet he merely shot me a glance before departing. At the same time, I noticed his badge, a solid 4-star emblem, indicating his rank. He regarded me thoughtfully. A KHA, amidst the unfolding drama, mentioned that the woman was in search of the Nirvana essence. Suddenly, and Dad, who had been quietly observing, seemed to have an epiphany. No wonder he had been hanging around the old battlefield. It turned out he was here in pursuit of the Nirvana essence. A rare opportunity that could significantly enhance one's professional ascent. For a class changer, this was a pivotal moment to solidify their career path, with a slim chance of advancing their profession. For instance, my rare Holy Knight could potentially ascend to a Holy Light Knight. But relying solely on personal growth, the odds were dismally low. However, the Nirvana essence could dramatically increase the chances of ascension, especially since there were known locations deep within the battlefield. Deep in the battlefield, there existed a monster known as the Battlefield Wraith, which had an exceptionally low drop rate for the Nirvana essence. A KHA chimed in, mentioning a boss named the Battlefield Demon King. Upon hearing this, Shang Taman let out a sigh. The Battlefield Demon King was an exceedingly rare and perilous encounter. Furthermore, he was a world-level boss, notoriously challenging to confront. My curiosity piqued. If the Macvan had already achieved legendary status, could there be an even higher tier of ascension possible, beyond mere legends? Just then, in the void, a pair of blood-red eyes appeared, belonging to a demonic hound. Yet, it lay lifeless. Even the cursed beast I summoned had met its end. It seemed that a formidable new class had emerged among the human ranks. In rage, he intended to summon an even higher-ranking demon to test the waters again. At the same time, the human experts, sensing his fury, were utterly terrified. The aura just now was reminiscent of the Flame Demon King. What on earth could have provoked such a tremendous outburst from him? Anyway, quickly report the situation here to the higher-ups. Bai Shen anxiously asked Elder Meng. What exactly happened? Elder Mo swiftly reassured him. It's nothing. Through communication with the Soul Hall and the Faceless Tower, I've seen his image. That kid not only wiped out a fair number of abyssal spell demons, but now he's become one of the 5 elemental warriors. Most importantly, he even managed to take down an abyssal demon hound. Hearing this, Bai Shen couldn't help but be astonished. In just 2 days, he had achieved such remarkable feats. It seemed the upcoming professional tournament would definitely be exciting. At that moment, Elder Meng, noticing a KHA standing beside me, was equally surprised. He hadn't expected them to be together. Bai Shen quickly asked him what else he had seen. I saw Nin's nemesis, and he's with that kid Lin. I can't wait to see the furious look on old Nin's face. Meanwhile, a KHA and I once again conquered the Hell-level Dragon Tower dungeon. My level had risen to 24, and even a cause specialized Dragon Tower gear was nearly complete. But just as we teleported out of the dungeon, the crowd around us suddenly pointed in one direction and shouted, "It's the Than!" A beast-drawn carriage slowly made its way toward us. And on it was none other than Sakura's team. Leading the group was the Than, the summoner with whom I had a previous grudge. Everyone guessed that the summoner the Than, with whom I had a past conflict, had arrived to conquer the Hell-level dungeon and claim the hidden title. However, they didn't realize that the only hidden title had already been claimed, by me. At that moment, Summoner the Than noticed me in a KHA, finding us somewhat familiar. After thinking for a moment, he realized he had encountered his enemy. As the grudge-bearing army landed at War Fortress, everyone was focused on survival. Yet, I, as a mere level 24 rookie, boldly volunteered to launch a counterattack. It turned out that right after I helped a KHA clear the Hell-level dungeon again, we unexpectedly ran into Sakura's nemesis the moment we stepped out. Upon seeing my level, Sakura's team burst into laughter. A level 24 rookie dares to show up on this battlefield? They mocked. Are you really planning to prepare another meal for the Abyss? However, the summoner god beside me looked utterly astonished. It should be noted that when I was on Mermaid Island, I had barely reached level 12. Within just a few days, I had surged to level 24. He was well aware of the strength of my skeletal army. If he couldn't deal with me this time, he would likely never get another chance. Nevertheless, his teammates quickly realized his intentions and urged him to hold back, stating that they couldn't act since the people of Shenhe Nation vastly outnumbered them. If a fight broke out, they would surely be the ones to perish. Hearing this, the summoner god cast a glance around, realizing that everyone around was watching him like a hungry tiger prowling for prey. He could only suppress the killing intent within him, declaring that he would duel me at the professional congress. hoping I wouldn't let him down. After saying that, he turned and headed through the side door. Akha understood that they were eager to strike, but were wary of the people of Shenhe around us. Yet, I responded coolly that it was no problem at all. Even if I stand alone, I can still handle them. What piques my curiosity is the professional competition he mentioned. Akha has filled me in on the details of this contest. It turns out that every year, this world hosts a global professional competition. Each profession in the system has its own specific tests. This time, the professional congress will be held in Shenhe Nation. Countless masters from various professions will gather to participate. You certainly can't escape this. When the time comes, we will face the competition together. The contests will be divided into team events and individual matches. The team competition requires the formation of a 5-member squad to participate. And the rewards for the champion of the individual tournament are incredibly enticing. When that time comes, you must remember to register. At that moment, the badge on our chests suddenly emitted a brilliant golden light. Akha immediately understood that this was an order from Shenhe Nation. Simultaneously, all the people from Shenhe Nation received military orders. In an instant, booming voices echoed across the battlefield. All soldiers of Shenhe Nation, gather at the war fortress. No sooner had the words left their lips than everyone began to be forcibly transported back to the war fortress. Witnessing this scene, the members of Sorcerer Nation couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Is this the power of unity that Shenhe Nation possesses? Such a thing could never happen in our country. Before long, we were teleported back to the war fortress. Thus, I immediately asked Thatch Hung what had occurred. Suddenly, the demonic eye in the sky emitted a beam of light. The direction pointed towards the realm of hell, indicating that a large number of demons were about to attack. Following that, from Thatch Hung's mouth, I learned that the demonic eye was not only used to observe the actions of the demons from hell, but it was also believed to command every large-scale battle. The sounds just now came from it. The voice of the demon eye echoed again. All professions below level 30. Get to the wall. Immediately, a teleportation vortex appeared next to us, and in the blink of an eye, we found ourselves on the wall. The demon eye then issued another reminder. Professions below level 30 are not allowed on the battlefield. At that moment, a figure on the wall captured everyone's attention, none other than the wielder of the exclusive legendary profession of the Ni clan. A true overlord, regarded as a divine presence within the legion. Instantly, morale surged among the troops. Just then, the man raised his great sword high and shouted out an order. Following my command, form the legion. Under the blessing of this skill, everyone's abilities would no longer harm their allies. Immediately after, the man plunged his sword into the wall. In the next moment, a powerful enhancement item appeared on each person, boosting their strength. With a 50% increase in mental attributes, I could feel the power continuously surging into my body. However, I couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. Due to my innate enhancement abilities, these buffs were overshadowed, preventing my skeletal army from benefiting from the boost. At that moment, a KHA, standing beside me, pointed in a direction and urged me to look quickly. I saw the divine summoner, mounted on a white horse, positioned at the front lines. He gazed expressionlessly in one direction while a sea of dark monsters rapidly approached. As fear began to spread among the ranks, a mental boost effect appeared, instantly increasing everyone's attack and defense by 30% for 10 minutes. Just then, a surge of energy gathered in front of Mac Van, coalescing into a pillar of light that struck directly into the mass of demon hounds. Seeing this, the lower-level demons recognized the threat she posed and immediately charged to attack her. However, Mac Van remained unfazed, skillfully guiding her white horse to fend them off. Simultaneously, elemental attacks rained down upon the monstrous horde. To everyone's astonishment, skeletal warriors suddenly appeared on the battlefield, adding to the chaos. Which god summoned these? The sheer number is overwhelming. In an instant, hundreds of skeletal warriors charged toward the demon horde. Their power left everyone in awe. Each swing of their blades effortlessly dispatched demon hounds with a single strike. The battlefield was quickly turning in their favor as these relentless warriors cut through the enemy forces, stunning both allies and foes alike. But frontline professions cannot fight against demons, and the losses are very serious. Seeing them being thrown into the mouth of the magic dog like food one by one, I understood that if I took the initiative, I could reduce a lot of casualties. So I walked up to the hero. I spoke blandly. I wished to leave the city and join the battle, while everyone on the battlefield was risking their lives against the monsters. I single-handedly obliterated the entire Abyssal Legion. This prompted the Abyssal Demon Lord to personally descend upon the war fortress. As a result, with just a mere ordinary skill, he shattered my skeletal armor in an instant. Even worse, the damage conversion caused me to lose all my skeletal soldiers. It turned out that the moment the commander agreed to let me join the fight, A KHA looked after me with a worried expression, knowing full well that there were many low-level fiends lurking outside the city. But to me, these fiends were merely stepping stones for my own achievements and experience. Upon seeing my arrival, Shi Hengdan expressed his doubts. Lin Shui, you're only in your 20s. Why are you out here fighting? I replied nonchalantly that I was here to clean up. With that, I summoned my skeletal army. My presence immediately drew the attention of the fiends. The Hellhounds, engaged in battle, abandoned their posts and rushed toward me, seeking vengeance for their fallen kin. As I witnessed the monstrous horde charging toward me, I felt no fear. Instead, I calmly raised my hand and cast the slow curse. In an instant, all the monsters and fiends were bound where they stood. My greatest advantage lay in the corpses scattered across the battlefield, which were the keys to maximizing the power of my corpse explosion skill. In the blink of an eye, a flurry of kill notifications flooded the screen. Seeing this spectacle, Ma Ke was astonished. Is that really his skill? It's utterly terrifying. Some were so frightened they dropped their weapons. Good heavens. Even a reincarnated professional player can't clear the battlefield alone. Yet he manages to do it. One can only imagine the sheer power of his Necromancer class. Shi Shen'an breathed a sigh of relief, secretly glad that Lin Shui was a student of our Sha Jing Academy. After the battlefield was ravaged by the corpse explosion skill, only a few wounded hellhounds remained. The rest was left for my skeletal army to handle. Upon witnessing this scene, Ma Ke finally realized that the ominous aura she had always detested stemmed from the undead creatures I summoned. I, Lin Ma, of the Divine Sha Empire, will personally slay you. Upon hearing this declaration, I strode directly toward the magic array. I wanted to see who was secretly manipulating things from within. However, as everyone saw my actions, panic ensued. It was a magic array created by the demon lord of the underworld. Is he really going to take on the Black Mist? That's someone we can't possibly contend with at our level. I watched as my skeletal warrior dragged the monster's corpse towards the teleportation array. But when the monster's body exploded within the array, instead of silencing the chaos, it only intensified the wrath and hatred of the Demon King towards me. Realizing I couldn't harm him at all, I knew my journey ahead was still long and treacherous. In an instant, a chilling cold pierced through the skeletal warrior shielding me. Yet his assault did not relent. I quickly activated my sea armor to defend. But the barrier shattered in less than 2 seconds. In the blink of an eye, a crimson light struck directly at my body. In that fleeting moment, I lost 124 bones. Yet the crimson light remained undiminished. Just when I was hanging by a thread, the demonic eye in the sky suddenly emitted a golden glow, striking the black mist and eliciting a heart-wrenching scream of despair. This situation nearly cost me my life. But fortunately, I managed to escape in time. A KHA rushed over to check on my injuries. What surprised me was that the Demon King of the Abyss could strike at me from across the teleportation array. His power was so overwhelming that I almost lost the spiritual mark of the White God. Midsummer. At that moment, my desire to grow stronger surged within me. Just wait, Abyssal Demon King. Today, I could form a mighty army of bosses for battle. All thanks to the Grim Reaper's new skill to summon souls. It allowed me to capture the souls of all the bosses I had slain, replenishing my spiritual power and enabling me to summon these souls to fight. It turned out that right after the demonic eye repelled the Abyssal Demon Lord, the heroes declared a significant victory in the defense. They began distributing the accumulated merit points from defeating the Abyssal Hellhounds and 10,000 Abyssal Fighters, totaling 25,000 military merits. However, among the 1,000 professionals, aside from Lam Mok Vu and Mok Van, everyone else received only 20 military merits each. Mok Van earned 500 military merits, while Lam Mok Vu received 3,500. Hearing this, Mok Van smiled. He was the man I admired the most. It was only fitting that someone with such strategic prowess received so many merits. Others in different professions also praised this great figure, deeming him worthy of such recognition. It was he who had vanquished all the demonic creatures on the battlefield. Without him, we would have suffered tremendous losses of talent. Yet, only the Holy Light Knight, Chu Nhac Thang, found it hard to accept this outcome, feeling that the military merits he had fought so hard to earn against the hordes of demonic creatures were not recognized. However, my power barely scratched the surface of his might, a humiliating reality I couldn't ignore. But at this moment, all my focus was on the scythe of death in my hand. I realized it had absorbed a massive amount of abyssal souls and was beginning to undergo a transformation. Meanwhile, many players who had acquired military merits noticed their ranks ascending. My own rank swiftly climbed until the badge on my chest shimmered in silver, signaling its peak. Furthermore, I could become the youngest lieutenant. And just as he finished speaking, Nagi Hung slowly approached me. At just 18, Lam Mak Vu was granted the title of Then Ha Tin, for being the youngest lieutenant in the Divine Ha Kingdom. A moment later, a title appeared above my head, showing a staggering difference of 300 points. Skill consumption reduced by 20%, and damage minimized by 10%. When Ni Hung saw the title hovering above me, he immediately inquired, "Do you have any other titles? Where did this Dragon War King title come from?" I could only answer honestly that it was a unique hidden title. It requires clearing Hell and the Dragon Line Frontline instance separately. Its effect is to boost all attributes by 500, reducing all skill consumption by 50%. Upon hearing this, Mak Am was astounded, as he had previously soloed the Frontline instance. The result was that he nearly lost his life within. Yet Ni Hung, upon hearing this, patted my shoulder and said, "Excellent, excellent. From now on, our Wa Ha nation has gained another genius." As a reward, I was permitted to utilize the military facilities within the fortress. However, using this equipment would require a certain amount of military merit. You need to be frugal. After settling everything, I returned to the fortress. At this point, the Scythe of Death had completed its transformation. I discovered that its level had reached the limit of 25. Not only did my spiritual power increase by an additional 3.000 points, but to advance further, I needed to unlock the outfit. It seemed that I needed to gather more information about the other outfits. But after the Scythe of Death transformed, it gained a new skill called Soul Calling, allowing me to capture all the souls of the defeated bosses. This would consume my spiritual power. It could summon souls to fight. Seeing the skill description, I immediately understood, if I could just defeat enough bosses, I could form an army from their souls. It seemed I needed to continue tackling the Hell instances. Later, I learned from Thach Hunin that some fortresses of the Divine Ha Kingdom had come under attack. Even the fortresses of other nations were being assaulted to varying degrees. The first fortress we were stationed in was the farthest from the abyss, with 9 more fortresses still standing in between, to withstand the might of the abyss. Thus, the strongest enemies this time were merely low-level demons, but there was no guarantee that action-oriented and assassination-specialized demons wouldn't appear. A cat looked at Vong with a worried expression. "This time, you have caught the attention of the Abyss Demon King. Later, as you engage on the battlefield of the original realm, you must tread carefully." Just then, the communication device in his hand suddenly beeped. Upon opening it, I discovered that my grandfather was searching for me. In no time, an old man ambled toward us. The moment I laid eyes on him, my pupils widened in shock. The badge on his chest clearly marked him as a 5-star spirit general. To my astonishment, the renowned figure, equal to Bai Shen, turned out to be Aka's grandfather. At that moment, a KHA quickly greeted him. "What brings you here, grandfather?" Yet, the director, upon noticing me with his granddaughter, erupted in anger. "Lam Mok Ngu, what are you doing with my granddaughter?" As he clenched his fist, ready to reprimand me, a KHA stepped in to stop him. Seeing this, the director hastily claimed he was merely testing my courage. During Aka's introduction, I politely addressed the director. "I am Lam Mok Ngu. Greetings, senior." Deep down, I recognized that he was indeed the headmaster of the academy. Observing my respectful demeanor, he decided not to pursue the matter further. However, suddenly, he exploded with rage. "That old fool Bai allowed you to undertake such a dangerous mission on your own. Thankfully, you're unharmed, otherwise, he and I would have a serious problem. Now, come with me. I will assign you another task. These past few days have been away from the academy, and if he took it upon himself to send you into such peril, it's fortunate you're safe. If not, we both have to answer for it. Now, let's return to your grandfather. He will arrange another mission for you." KHA expressed a desire to complete the remaining mission with me. But Director Ning immediately turned his sharp gaze toward me, questioning, "What have you given my granddaughter?" Yet a KHA informed him that she voluntarily chose to stay by my side. With her willing consent, there was no choice but to relent. "Then your grandfather will send a few people to guide you through the mission." A KHA quickly pulled out a pen. Her grandfather looked at it, and with a glance, recognized it as a golden relic dropped from the Hell's Gate dungeon. Noticing the title of Dragon Clan War King shimmering faintly above my head, a storm of unease surged within him. This kid is far too peculiar. I need to return and ask old Bai what is going on. He recalled how the god of death had annihilated thousands of demons single-handedly. Yet now, I found myself confronted by a team of foreign warriors right at the dungeon entrance. Their captain seemed intent on intimidating me. However, as soon as my skeletal warrior emerged, he caused their ranks to crumble and fall in an instant. He wanted to separate a KHA from me, but when he saw the title of Dragon Clan War King above my head, his attitude shifted instantly. He allowed a KHA to remain by my side. for he understood that my future achievements would undoubtedly surpass his own. After that, I immediately headed to the fortress battlefield within the army to purchase supplies and unlock the military shop. Upon discovering the dungeon, I realized that the escape gear inside was relatively suitable for me, as I could prepare for the next hell dungeon, the Long Tribe's outpost. Thus, I decided to buy 2 pieces, sharing one with the KHA. Just at that moment, the divine summoner, Mac Van, suddenly found us. It turned out he wanted my help to tackle the battlefield together. The Demon King suggested throwing 2 pieces of gold ore to a KHA to pinpoint the teleportation location. After I discovered the Demon King's battlefield, you could teleport here. Once the Demon King is defeated, it would drop at least 3 Nirvana crystals. I only need 1, and the rest is invaluable for you. Without a moment's hesitation, Van Non, agreed. However, I was left wondering why he didn't seek help from others to find me. After all, my level was only 24, and I might not be able to defeat a 38-level world boss. A KHA expressed that I could solo the Hell dungeon. I was even stronger than Mac Van, as even his power couldn't handle a Hell-level dungeon. The urgency lay in quickly leveling up, so I decided to use Rejuvenating Essence to continue battling at the Long Tribe's Hell-level outpost. And soon my level soared to 25. After allocating my attributes, my dungeon clearing speed increased significantly. In less than 2.5 hours, we stood before the dragon leader. After defeating him, I immediately used my summoning skill on his corpse. Just a second later, the dragon leader's soul began to surge forth. The god of death. But just as Akag joyfully stepped out of the dungeon, preparing to continue, we spotted a powerful army marching toward us. The leader quickly sidestepped and, after speaking, attempted to shove me aside. However, he realized he couldn't budge my body. The man felt a jolt in his heart. Otherwise, he would have immediately shouted to Akag, "All of you stand back. You've sullied our red carpet." After saying this, he tried to push Akag away again. Just at that moment, a long sword suddenly fell onto his arm. The man collapsed to the ground. I saw a zombie warrior staring intently at him. At that moment, Akag reminded me, "Be careful, they are all from the Kolau." At that moment, a commanding voice boomed from a carriage. Hearing the sound, the knights bowed respectfully. Then, a nobleman stepped out from the carriage. But upon seeing Akag's breathtaking beauty, he was instantly taken aback. Thus, he directly addressed the man who had just collided with us. "How dare you be so rude? Step back at once." Immediately, he bowed deeply to Akag. "I apologize on behalf of my subordinate for his offense." He then began to introduce himself, declaring that he was a level 31 fire god warrior from the ancient La Church. The crowd around them gasped in surprise. The Holy Maiden is actually a fire god warrior. It was said that the ancient La Church prided itself on being the heir to divine powers. And this fire god warrior was indeed the bearer of the fire god's strength. However, some scoffed. What kind of title is fire god warrior? It was merely a legendary profession with fire attributes. Compared to the god who had annihilated thousands of abyssal demons, it was nothing at all. At that moment, Rogus stepped toward Akag and extended his hand. "Lovely lady, may I have the honor of inviting you to join me in a dungeon raid?" Seeing this, I swiftly positioned myself in front of Akag, declaring, "You are not worthy." I recalled the countless demons I had vanquished alone, now thwarted by a foreign army within a mere dungeon. My power surpassed their understanding entirely. With just a flick of my wrist, I could crush all occupations. Even the undead warriors would fall before me. Rogus, as a legendary profession, was merely a shadow compared to my might. Indeed, right after I led Akag out of the infernal dungeon, I unexpectedly encountered the fire god warrior from the ancient La Church. Captivated by Akag's beauty, he was eager to level up alongside her. Yet I bluntly stated that he was unqualified. "You are just a level 25 rookie. I should be the one deemed worthy. Moreover, I had come here to solo the infernal dungeon, to claim that legendary title for myself. With your strength, you might struggle to even complete the nightmare dungeon." At that moment, Akag chuckled. Simultaneously, those around us couldn't suppress their laughter. Witnessing this, Rogus appeared confused. Just then, a subordinate rushed over, reporting that the title at the station had been stolen by someone else, and that someone was the young man standing before them. Rogus was immediately astonished, but soon after, he swiftly summoned everyone to gather around him. In no time, they had devised a plan. The captain spoke anxiously. "This is the territory of the Divine Empire. Could our actions spark a war between our nations?" Rogus merely chuckled coldly. "As long as we keep it discreet, there will be no problem. After all, if they die, others will think they perished in the dungeon." Seeing me and Akag re-entering the dungeon, Rogus quickly crushed a tracking scroll. In the very next moment, their entire team vanished at the dungeon's entrance, only to reappear right in front of me and Akag. Rogus, with a smug expression, declared, I never expected we could catch up. If anyone is to blame, it is you for stealing my title. I will have to kill you to reclaim it. With that, he instantly crushed a teleportation seal scroll. In the very next moment, Akhe realized that the copy in hand had lost its effectiveness. Rogus, now feeling the thrill of his advantage, began to swell with arrogance. Stop wasting your efforts, you can't escape from here. This is the consequence of crossing paths with the ancient Church of Rome. Suddenly, he stepped closer to Akhe and declared, if I don't have the heart to kill you, then I'll turn you into my plaything. Yet, I simply smirked in response. If you've already used the teleportation scroll, it means you can't teleport from the copy. And how could you know that we are the real prey? With that, I swiftly summoned my army of the undead. If you've willingly walked into your own grave, you might as well stay here. However, Rogus merely scoffed. He thought that mere zombies could pose a threat to him. I am the god of fire. A legendary profession. Finishing his boast, he activated his battle state, the fire god form. In this state, all my attributes would triple. Skill damage triples, and damage taken is reduced by 300%. Moreover, I am immune to all control skills. How can your pitiful undead hope to challenge me? He was not just a legendary fighter, his profession was particularly fearsome. But fortunately, the others did not share his immunity. I unleashed Slow Curse to control the remaining foes, then commanded my army of the undead to prioritize eliminating them. Seeing this, Rogus insisted on facing my undead army alone. But as soon as the battle began, he was knocked back by a zombie warrior. Witnessing this, despair washed over everyone. If even the prince can't handle these zombies, how can we possibly cope? Before long, the army of the undead surged forward, overwhelming them. In mere moments, they had annihilated all opposition. Watching this unfold, I could only smile. Your helplessness has led to the tragic demise of your subordinates. Hearing these words, Rogus was driven into a furious frenzy. I will make sure you and your minions meet your graves. Yet, I merely drew my scythe of death, casually stating, did you not wish to face the Hell-class dragon alone? Let me test my new skills against you. In the blink of an eye, the dragon leader appeared before him like a king. In less than half a month, I had mastered the power of soul summoning, capable of crushing the talents of other nations with the souls I controlled. A single warning brought him to his knees, begging for mercy, while I continued to train Akhe in the hellish copy. Rogus exploited a tracking scroll and led a small team here. In less than half a minute, I had dealt with all his subordinates. Once finished, I immediately summoned the soul of the Dragon Guardian. As both sides prepared for battle, Rogus witnessed the scene with a face of disbelief and horror. He couldn't fathom that I could summon a boss of hellish proportions. Before he could think further, the dragon leader was right in front of him. In the very next second, the colossal blade of the dragon came crashing down onto his sword. The overwhelming force sent him crashing into the rocks. He stood up in a pitiful state, realizing that his fire god state had vanished. At that moment, everything in his battle began to crumble. But now, the guardian dragon's great sword was poised to strike. Rogus no longer cared about his own identity. He started pleading, I am the son of the fire god from the ancient La Church. If you spare me, I will give you anything I have. But in the face of his desperate pleas, I felt no stirrings of pity. Just a second after the guardian dragon launched its fierce attack, Akhe, licking his pouch, sneered, I thought this god was so noble. But before death, he's begging for mercy. But then again, you did kill a god from the ancient La Church. Afraid of their retaliation? Before I could even speak, he continued, no matter what, I will stand by you. At that moment, within the ancient La Church, a statue began to stir. And upon witnessing this, everyone felt a shiver of fear. Prince Rutgers is in trouble. Quickly, find the great cleric, over there. Akhe and I teleported back from the hellish dungeon, as we needed to recharge our skincare supplies. So we returned to the academy, and soon headed to the trading post. We were preparing to sell off our surplus equipment, but the staff at the trading post were astounded by the gear I was selling. Who is this divine being? This is all hellish guard equipment. However, as soon as I stepped out of the trading post, I received a call from Bai Shen. You little brat, you come back without a word and now you want me to come over immediately? When he sees my rank, he won't hesitate. Damn it, how did you level up to 26 so fast? But I made it clear, if I don't personally take someone along to grind, the hell dungeon itself might have reached level 27. Old man Mang burst into laughter upon hearing this. I bet the one you brought along is the precious granddaughter of the academy head. Knowing that I just needed to grind the dragon guards at hellish difficulty, Bai Shen curiously inquired, so, did you achieve that legendary title? I quickly presented the title of Dragon Tribe War King above my head. Not only did I obtain this title, but I also earned the title of Heart of the Fallen God during the war. Bai Shen's eyes lit up with joy. No wonder I chose the white deity. I provided him with cooling skincare materials to aid him in battle, and even sourced materials from the Dragon Clan to help him in crafting the warlord's necklace. However, the white deity revealed he had a small request. He wanted something in return at the professional tournament 10 days from now. When I claimed the championship title in my group, I revealed the fire god outfit of Rogus. The white deity was equally astonished. How did you come to possess the fire god outfit from the ancient La sect, yet? Old man Mang seemed to know. Could it be that you defeated the fire god fighter of the La sect? He was a legendary warrior highly esteemed by the sect. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I had to recount everything that had transpired in the dungeon. But as soon as I spoke, an overwhelming aura erupted from Old Man Mang. The very air shook the courtyard. This is outrageous. Who dares to slay our disciple within the territory of the Divine Empire? I've heard they possess a method to resurrect their fighters through idols. The fighter might still be alive. At this moment, the white deity slowly rose. Having refrained from action for quite a while, it seems many have forgotten my other name. In fact, the white deity also bore the title of God of Slaughter of Hua Sha. Witnessing this scene, I couldn't help but recall. Perhaps that fighter is not dead after all. The white deity slowly stood, having been idle for too long, indicating that some had indeed forgotten another name of his. It turns out that the white deity's other identity was the God of Slaughter of Hua Sha. And this made me reminisce. I once read in history books that the white deity single-handedly invaded the Asha kingdom and eliminated 3 of its top powerhouses, nearly bringing the entire kingdom to ruin. Suddenly, a blazing ball of fire appeared in the sky above the La sect. And a moment later, 2 dark seals formed around the fireball. I watched as Principal Nin yelled furiously, "Koba, get out here and face my wrath." The white deity and Nin Tai Nian finally unleashed their fury, obliterating the idols and deities of the La sect. It turned out that once the white deity learned that a Kha and I were being hunted in the dungeon, he and Nin Tai Nian descended upon the La sect to demand answers. The high priest and elders sensed the dangerous aura that abruptly filled the air. Someone dared to relay the news to the La sect, but the next moment, that person broke into a cold sweat. Not only was Nin Tai Nian a god-ranked professional, but the white deity was also known as the God of Slaughter of Hua Sha. Seeing this, he quickly lowered his stance, apologizing profusely to the two. "If we have offended either of you in any way, I represent the La sect in extending our deepest apologies." Below, the disciples watched in awe, unable to muster a single word. Has the doomsday of our Church of Kola truly arrived? At this moment, Ning Tai Nian, with an angered expression, declared, "There's a brat named Rutgers in your sect. Bring him out before the revered one of our faith." The elder hurriedly ordered someone to bring forth Rogus, who had just been resurrected, and cautiously inquired, "What offense has Rogus committed against the 2 esteemed ones?" Deep down, he calculated that, given Rogus's status as the son of the fire god temple, he must do everything in his power to ensure Rogus's survival. However, Ning Tai Nian merely cast a cold glance at him and replied, "He hasn't offended us, rather. He has wronged my precious grandson and Bai Shen's beloved disciple. What in the world has that damn Rogus done?" At this moment, the elders had brought Rogus forward. However, upon witnessing the scene, he thought it was the fire deity he revered appearing before him. Yet, in the blink of an eye, a surge of power swept him into the air. Soon after, the clergy swiftly clarified, "This is the person you two are searching for. Just days ago, he had just returned to life." Seeing the situation unfold, Yuan Tai Nan immediately began to suppress him with his spirit. As a wave of power surged into Rogus's mind, the hatred within him erupted like a volcano. "That brat dared to kill me. One day, I will make him pay. Even his woman will become nothing more than my plaything." Hearing this, the church members immediately felt an ominous dread, thinking, "This is bad." Meanwhile, Rogus's inner turmoil reached a fever pitch. Just as he was about to plead for his life, he met Bai Shen's gaze, which sent chills down his spine, rendering him speechless. It is known that Bai Shen had nearly single-handedly annihilated an entire nation. If he were to anger him, their entire ancient sect could face ruin. Finishing his words, he slowly raised his hand. In the next moment, a blazing fireball hurtled down towards Rogus and the idol at his feet. Witnessing this, the elders shouted for everyone to flee quickly. Yet, Rogus laughed heartily. "You cannot kill me, I can always return." But in the very next instant, before Rogus could even scream in agony, he was reduced to ashes. Following that, a tremendous explosion erupted from within the statue, devastating the entire area. Observing this scene, the members of the church felt utterly powerless, merely hoping that the 2 esteemed ones before them would temper their wrath. Looking into the hopeful eyes of the elders, they could only sigh in resignation, saying, For those who remain, surviving would be a stroke of luck. Given the tempers of these two esteemed ones, it is already a mercy that they haven't completely wiped us out. Moving forward, it may take a long time for recovery. Meanwhile, Bai Shen and Ning Tai Nan had returned to the Hajing Academy. As soon as Bai Shen sat down, he began to tease Ning Tai Nan. Old Ning, why have you become so mild-tempered? Could it be that you've grown soft from spoiling your granddaughter? You're no different. If it were in the past, the members of the Kola sect would have been wiped out by you long ago. Although Bai Shen explained that he was simply tired of the bloodshed. Only old Meng knew that the true reason he spared them was to have them eliminate a few more demons from the abyss. Before long, the time for the 100th career conference arrived. At this moment, I was preparing to register for participation. From what I understood, this competition was divided into 3 seasons: team contest, individual contest, and challenge contest. The culinary category was also categorized into levels, and I was at level 20 to 29. The rewards for this category were quite generous. In the team competition for levels below 40, each champion group would receive a sparkling entry-level scroll, along with a primary grade elixir and 50 million energy points. With my current strength, winning the championship was not a major concern. However, I was still unclear about the rules and rewards of the challenge contest. Upon hearing this, they immediately exclaimed in surprise. What kind of insane leveling speed is this? I struggled for a whole month just to reach level 17. Oh no, the Principal Ba Li's son is about to meet his end. It turned out that on my way to register for the conference, I had encountered Xia Shui's group. However, my level left them utterly astonished. At that moment, a K also arrived. Xia Shui couldn't help but curiously ask, "Who is this person?" Before I could explain, a K hesitantly introduced herself as just my friend. She also informed everyone about her profession and level. When Xia Shui heard this, she was once again taken aback, and a K quickly added, "It's all thanks to me." Hearing this, Xia Shui immediately understood that I had helped a K level up, and a pang of jealousy surged within her. Nevertheless, he politely introduced himself as my high school classmate. The other two standing beside him teased. Turns out being exceptionally talented comes with its own set of troubles. After that, Xia Shui's group departed, starting their search for teammates. At this moment, a K suddenly felt a wave of anxiety. It turned out that before meeting me, he had already been close to such a beauty. Thus, he asked whether I and Xia Shui were very close. Hearing this, I immediately clarified that Xia Shui and I were merely ordinary classmates. A K chuckled and replied, "You're really clueless. If I had a beautiful female friend like that, I would definitely pursue her." After saying this, he prepared to leave, but upon turning back, he spotted Zhang Dao Dao, whom he had fought alongside on the island. He immediately approached to ask if they were there to compete and if they had found a team yet. Hearing this, Miao Wei beside him angrily replied, "They think our levels are too low and don't want to team up with us." At this moment, I took the initiative to invite them to join my team. Although Zhang Dao Dao didn't rush to agree, he had heard that I could single-handedly conquer the Desert Tyrant replica. He thought that if he joined my team, the championship would surely be in our grasp. However, he had one condition: if we could win the championship, they only needed to share a small portion of the contribution points from the Academy's reward. Based on that, the other two quickly chimed in, "That's right. We don't need anything else. Just a bit of contribution points will suffice. After all, without you guys, at our level, we might not even find a team." Hearing this, I immediately grasped their decision. If I didn't agree, they might refuse to cooperate. So, I had to concede to their terms. Afterward, we headed to the registration desk to fill out the team roster. At that moment, Bok Li Tan approached from a distance, leading a small fry, eager to recruit a few reliable teammates with his formidable strength. This championship for the professional competition would undoubtedly belong to him, but everyone steered clear of him, afraid of getting too close to the son of the principal, Bok Li, who stood before them. This was the moment when Aki and I captured Bok Li Tan's attention. Why is Aki teaming up with another man? But as soon as he recognized me, he immediately stood in front of us. Aki looked at him with disgust. This bastard has shown up again. Why are you hanging around this guy? Seeing this, his expression darkened. At that moment, Aki, clearly annoyed, said, "Who I go with is none of your business." Hearing this, Bok Li Tan exploded with rage. "You think I don't care? Who doesn't know you are my fiancé? Bok Li Tan, don't open that filthy mouth of yours. You came to my house to propose, and I turned you down. Yet you go around proclaiming that I'm your fiancé. Given our family's ties, I haven't held this against you. You've lied so much, you've even convinced yourself. Otherwise, you should find a place to fix that head of yours, just to prevent you from going crazy later." In truth, Aki wanted to clarify, fearing I might take it to heart. But I understood that someone who could provoke his wrath like this was certainly not a good person. Moreover, I had previously snatched documents from Bok Li Academy at the Temple of Affection. I had already witnessed Bok Li Tan's true colors. At this moment, he was even more outrageous. Growling, "This isn't over. You belong to me. No one can take you away. Lam Mok Vu, last time you stole the record from Bok Li Academy in the dungeon. And now you want to steal my people as well." No sooner had he finished speaking than a key and several others immediately drew their weapons. Ready for battle. Even I felt a surge of lethal intent for the first time. But at that moment, Bok Li Tan suddenly wore a fearful expression, as a shadow slowly descended behind him. "Who did you say you wanted to kill?" I asked, my voice cold as ice. Recalling my first time back on the battlefield as a rookie, I had been looked down upon by the ordinary soldiers of the war fortress. But the moment I summoned a few skeletal warriors, their jaws dropped in shock, leaving them speechless. "Who do you want to kill?" Upon seeing me, he immediately cowered, collapsing to the ground. "I greet you, Lord White God." I said nothing at all. Seeing his fear, White God lost interest in killing him. "Get lost. And if you ever dare to cross my path again, I'll personally deliver your head to White Leader." Hearing that, Bok Li Tan dared not look back and fled in terror. Then, White God slowly descended before me and a key. "Kid, if I hadn't shown up, what were you planning to do?" I replied that I would have killed him directly. White God inquired, "Aren't you afraid of the forces behind him?" His grandfather, Principal Bok Li, is a top-tier level 81 professional, but I assured him that I had considered the consequences if things went south. I could always retreat to the primordial battlefield, where I had the ability to survive. Hearing my words, White God patted my shoulder with satisfaction. "Kid, you have the same spirit I once had. In this line of work, fear is your enemy, just as when you took down the god of the old La sect. Killing is killing." Nin the Elder shattered the old La sect, and they didn't dare voice a single protest. In this world, power is the only truth. The fear that others hold towards you must be built by your own actions. With that, he tossed me a carefully mixed jar of moisturizer. "I've sent the upgrade methods to your communication device. Once you gather enough materials, I'll find someone to help you with the upgrade. I've also sent you a new mission." After giving me his instructions, he departed. Upon learning that a key and I had a mission, Jiang Dao Dao arranged to meet us at the upcoming assembly. After they left, I began to review the mission that White God had sent me. It turned out that I was required to go to Fortress Number 3. Eliminate the Abyssal Demon, upgrade my rank to 2 stars, and return with elemental crystals from outside the fortress. A key, upon hearing this, immediately provided me with information about the location. Outside Fortress Number 3 lies the primordial battlefield, also known as the Elemental Plains. A massive battle once erupted there, involving nearly 100 Tier 3 elemental mages. Over 1,000 spells and incantations were cast in that area. Since then, it has become infused with elemental energy. Many elemental creatures have emerged there, but even now, I have yet to encounter them. Seeing his curious expression, I responded, "You'll find out when we go." Thus, I led him to the Academy's teleportation station. Upon reaching our destination, in an instant, we appeared on the teleportation platform of Fortress Number 3. To save time for the mission, we immediately advanced toward the elemental plains outside the fortress. However, as soon as we reached the exit, we were stopped by the guards. "In the plains, even the weakest demons are at least level 33. You two are only level 26, don't wander out there looking for death." Just then, the captain in charge of the guard arrived. "Where are your elders? How could they let you come here? This place is fundamentally not meant for your level." At this moment, a demon appeared not far away, which was a 33 level fire element soul. Suddenly, the security captain appeared aggressive. "I just saw a few zombie warriors around me at some point. And the speed of these zombie warriors." This left him utterly astonished. The power of the skeletal warriors surpassed anything he could have imagined. With just a glance, they easily subdued the elemental fire spirit. The sight forced both of them to question their existence. Unable to believe that someone at just level 26 could summon a creature capable of obliterating a level 33 monster. But in the next instant, the captain of the guards was shocked once more. He had realized that I wore a positional badge on my chest. Recalling his own experience at this spot, he had been level 38, while I had just turned 18. Therefore, he quickly expressed his apologies and allowed us to pass. Not long after, a KHA and I set out on our quest for materials. Yet, we had barely ventured far when we encountered a monster, a flying elemental wind spirit. Without hesitation, I summoned the skeletal mages, who specialized in countering aerial creatures. While others on the battlefield merely fled, I unleashed less than 1/10 of my power, leaving everyone present in awe of the results. As it turned out, just after a KHA and I stepped out of the war fortress, we confronted the wind elemental spirit. I summoned the skeletal mage to face the abyssal monsters capable of flight. Fortunately, the long-range elemental attacks from the skeletal mage proved quite effective against them. However, what left me dissatisfied was that upon their demise, their bodies disintegrated immediately, preventing my undead blast skill from coming into play. Their voices echoed with cries for help. From a distance, I spotted countless elemental spirits pursuing them. A KHA gasped, exclaiming, "These people must have disturbed the lair of the elemental spirits," but I felt a surge of excitement. For I understood that this was a sign of the elemental secret realm's emergence. When this realm appears, the elements will begin to riot, spawning a massive influx of elemental spirits. Thus, I immediately pressed deeper into the elemental planes. Yet I paid them no mind and directly summoned my skeletal army. With a rallying cry, the entire skeletal army charged toward the elemental spirits. Faced with my army, whose attributes overpowered them, the elemental spirits were swiftly suppressed. In an instant, a flurry of notifications about consecutive eliminations flooded the screen. Just then, a piercing shriek struck a key like a hammer, sending her head spinning. My high mental fortitude shielded me from its effects, but I recognized the sound as emanating from the elemental queen hidden within the secret realm. It seemed we needed to wrap things up quickly. Without hesitation, I raised my hand to cast a spell that would slow time. In the blink of an eye, all the elemental spirits were immobilized, while the skeletal warriors seized the opportunity to launch a frenzied assault. Meanwhile, the others, having distanced themselves, were secretly rejoicing in their survival. They were astonished to realize the elemental spirits were no longer pursuing them. Suddenly, one among them pointed toward the distant clash and exclaimed, "Look, the elemental spirits are falling before my skeletal army." Those who had mocked me just moments ago were now utterly speechless. The power of this young man's profession was truly terrifying. How ironic it was that we once ridiculed him as mad. As the last of the elemental spirits fell, a portal shimmered into existence before us. Without a moment's hesitation, I led a key through the gate into the secret realm. Upon entering, we found ourselves in a frigid world, where a magnificent ice castle emerged before our eyes. To save time, I quickly summoned skeletal warriors to guide us. It didn't take long before we pinpointed the location of the elemental queen. Thus, we sprinted towards it. However, along the way, we encountered a man radiating an enigmatic aura. He sat upon a throne, emanating an aura of dominance. Instantly, his attributes materialized before my eyes, and I was taken aback to discover his agility was a staggering 0. Yet, he possessed immunity to half of all physical damage. As soon as he realized we were encroaching, he unleashed a barrage of icy elemental attacks. In that fleeting moment, Aki and I had no choice but to find shelter. This also made me realize that the reason his agility was 0 was that he had fused with the ice castle itself. Consequently, his elemental strikes were incredibly potent. While evading his attacks, I summoned skeletal warriors to counter. Although his immunity to physical damage significantly weakened their attacks, their sheer numbers created formidable strength. Yet, in the very next moment, the elemental general unleashed a devastating area of effect skill. Under the relentless barrage of elemental assaults, my skeletal warriors began to dwindle rapidly. Thus, I had no choice but to recall all my summoned warriors back to the summoning space. But suddenly, dread washed over me as I glanced at the elemental general. I could see his wounds slowly healing. Was this the regenerative ability granted by having 0 agility? But all I need to do is deal damage that exceeds his recovery speed. Therefore, I decided to summon the soul of the dragon chief to join the battle. His attributes were even slightly higher than those of the elemental general. Indeed, he was a boss from the infernal dungeon. To swiftly end the fight, I summoned all remaining skeletal warriors. The power of the absurd was finally unleashed upon the world. While others were struggling against monsters on the battlefield, I stood undefeated, sweeping through the entire elemental secret realm. It turned out that while I was searching for the boss, I accidentally encountered the chief of the water element. What troubled me was that his skills countered my skeletal legion. So, I immediately summoned the soul of the dragon chief to engage in combat. Moments later, the water elemental general unleashed the skill, Military Whirlwind. Millions of ice shards rained down upon the dragon chief. As a result, these attacks landed on him without inflicting any damage. I understood. All of this was thanks to his passive resistance and enhancement skills. And when all the skills of the water elemental general were activated, I immediately commanded my skeletal legion to counterattack. However, as the relentless strikes from the skeletal legion poured onto him, suddenly a terrifying column of water erupted from his body like a flood. This was one of his massive AoE skills. In an instant, 100-meter radius was submerged by the flood. Seeing this, I couldn't help but exclaim, "These skills truly counter my skeletal legion." Fortunately, at that moment, my skeletal legion had shifted to attack the dragon chief. As the flood receded, the skeletal legion once again charged at the water elemental general. While the dragon chief had yet to make a move, he finally leapt into the fray. With a powerful slash, the body of the water elemental general instantly transformed into a puddle, completely vanishing. Shortly after, the system notified me that I had defeated the water elemental general, earning 1.480.000 experience points and receiving the water elemental box along with 10 coins as a reward. Then, I recalled the soul of the dragon chief back. Next, I attempted to summon the soul at the spot where the water elemental general had vanished. But there was no response whatsoever. I immediately realized that it could be because the elemental soul lacked a spirit. At that moment, a key sensed that the chaotic elemental energy here had decreased significantly, guessing it was thanks to the defeat of the water elemental general. After that, we continued towards our next destination, the Sea of Fire. However, upon reaching the Sea of Fire, we found it to be even more perilous than the previous icy terrain. To ensure our safety, I equipped us with skeletal armor. Deep down, I was suspicious. Having passed through the ice, we now faced the Sea of Fire. And perhaps next, we would have to traverse the world of wind. And then came the world of thunder. Soon after, we discovered an erupting volcano at its heart. But suddenly, the flames opened their eyes. Moments later, its attributes materialized before us. It turns out, he is one of the leaders of the Hidden Realm, the Fire Elemental General. Moreover, this is a stationary elemental beast that cannot move. However, dealing with such a creature offers no effective strategies. We can only rely on the sheer numbers of the skeletal army to forcefully take it down. But in the very next moment, the searing flames erupt from the body of the Fire Elemental General. As it crashes down, it transforms into a wide-ranging indiscriminate attack. For the close combat skeletal warriors, this truly means death. Thus, I summon all the skeletal mages and command them to unleash a freezing storm. Instantly, countless ice shards rain down upon the Fire Elemental General. In agony, the Fire Elemental General retaliates in its dying throes, launching a wide-area attack once again, a fiery explosion. Almost immediately, the ground within a 100-meter radius shakes violently. Suddenly, scorching flames erupt from the earth. Witnessing this, I swiftly pull a key to safety. At this moment, the attacks from the skeletal mages continue to rain down. Seeing that the Fire Elemental General is on the brink of collapse, I turn to a key beside me and say, "The new year is approaching, and here I want to gift you a fireworks display." No sooner had I spoken than the body of the Fire Elemental General exploded completely. Instantly, a splendid array of fireworks illuminated the sky. Afterwards, I felt a bit embarrassed as I watched the elemental flames falling down. The box of elemental flames descends. Yet a key gazes at me with a touched expression, surprised that this foolish one also knows about romance. At the same time, a team of professional adventurers from Nation H discovers the entrance to the elemental hidden realm. However, when they enter, they find no elemental spirits around. The captain informs them that someone might have entered before. Hearing this, the others quickly insist on catching up. But the captain merely smiles wryly. I can sense the remnants of elemental breath. This indicates that they have not been here long. With them leading the way, we can also mitigate unnecessary losses. One person can defeat 4 elemental generals and even stand against the mightiest elemental queen in this hidden realm. However, the adventurers from Nation H are unexpectedly ambushed from behind. It turns out that as soon as they entered the elemental realm, all elemental spirits suddenly vanished. The captain realizes this and immediately deduces that someone has entered before them. Therefore, he quickly devises a complete plan to exploit me. Eliminate all monsters along the way until reaching the elemental queen, and only then deal with me. This way, they could significantly reduce casualties within the team. So they kept trailing our scent. At that moment, a KHE and I pressed on towards the heart of the secret realm. Suddenly, a colossal figure blocked our path, one of the leaders of this mysterious domain, the Elemental General. Furthermore, this was a fusion of 2 elements from different branches. An unsettling feeling washed over me as this elemental marshal not only possessed mobility but was also capable of flight. It truly posed a significant challenge. Just as I was contemplating my next move, a bolt of lightning struck me out of nowhere. Fortunately, the armor of the Seabone absorbed all the damage. Thus, I decided to unleash my skill, Shape Binding. And instantly, he was ensnared by chains of iron, rendered completely immobile. Yet, the power of his thunder continued to rain down upon the ground. This relentless assault caused my skeletal warriors beneath me to lose their fighting spirit immediately. In fact, some of the skeletal soldiers struck by the lightning were reduced to mere ashes. Thankfully, the distant skeletal mages remained unharmed. launching a flurry of elemental attacks in retaliation. The elemental marshal, trapped in chains, could only endure these onslaughts. As the power of the lightning gradually dissipated, my skeletal warriors began to counterattack. Under the relentless assault of the skeletal army, the elemental marshal quickly disintegrated into 2 elemental forms. Utterly vanquished, the system notified me that I had gained 1.52 million experience points. Along with elemental gold and a sister of the lightning element, I realized that if I didn't swiftly eliminate the elemental queen, it wouldn't be long before the elemental generals I had defeated would rise again. Therefore, Akako and I hurried towards the position of the elemental queen. We quickly found the elemental palace, where a stunning blonde beauty sat upon her throne. This was the elemental queen, the final being of the elemental secret realm. With the ability to have physical and elemental damage, she was the strongest boss I had ever encountered. The elemental power radiating from her prevented my skeletal warriors from advancing. Each of her ordinary strikes could effortlessly annihilate numerous skeletal soldiers in the blink of an eye. Seeing the situation unfold, a wave of worry washed over me. My undead minions, battered from numerous battles, seemed incapable of challenging the elemental queen. Just as I was pondering my options, she began to gather elemental power. In an instant, 3 beams of elemental light shot forth. In a heartbeat, 5 of my skeletal warriors were obliterated. Witnessing this scene, I couldn't help but marvel at her strength. Truly, she was deserving of the title Queen of the Elemental Realm. Before I could process my astonishment, she continued to unleash her skill. Elemental Stellar, summoning 2 elemental whirlwinds that swept all my skeletal soldiers into their grasp. Watching my skeletal warriors being systematically annihilated, I found myself in a precarious situation for the first time. With elemental beings devoid of soul and body, my undead minions shattered into pieces, and the flames of spirit could do nothing to save them. Perhaps my only option left was to summon General Wang Lin and the Dragon Leader to join the fray. Meanwhile, the small contingent from Nation H noticed my fierce battle against the Elemental Queen. Without hesitation, the captain commanded the mage to unleash an assault on me. As the sorcerer began chanting his spell, a massive force gathered around him, pulsating with ominous energy. However, this impending threat was immediately detected by Kako, an assassin. He swiftly warned me of a covert attack. No sooner had he spoken than a gigantic magic circle erupted beneath our feet, and torrents of flames rained down upon us. Yet, before I could act, as the sorcerer completed his incantation, a colossal meteor descended from the sky, hurtling straight towards us. Witnessing this spectacle, I couldn't help but laugh. At that moment, the fury of Lin Moyu surged forth like a tempest. Not only was I facing the most powerful artifact of the elemental realm, but I was also single-handedly annihilating the entire squad of Nation H. It turned out that while I battled the Elemental Queen, Nation H could no longer restrain themselves and launched their attack. As the sorcerer completed his incantation, countless meteors with a terrifying aura descended toward me and Akako. Seeing this, I couldn't help but chuckle once more. Just in time, I activated the sea armor, blocking all incoming assaults. Next, I summoned 9.5 skeletal warriors. Dealing with them should be sufficient. Observing this scene, the members of Nation H quickly realized that the Elemental Queen was utterly defenseless against my undead. There could be only one explanation: these undead were undoubtedly summoned by me. As a few began to grasp this truth, they quickly assumed combat stances, ready to strike, but suddenly, their movements halted instantaneously. It was my slowing curse at work. At the same time, I commanded the skeletal mages standing behind me to attack. All of them aimed at the enemy's restorative sorcerer. In an instant, hundreds of elemental attacks rained down upon him. With just one assault, he found himself gasping for breath. Seeing that, the knight captain was immediately stunned by my overwhelming power. In less than 2 seconds, he lost a comrade. If this continued, his squad would perish right here. Realizing this, he promptly activated a wide area taunt skill, then used a broad chain lock skill on my undead, drawing all the enmity toward himself. Immediately afterward, he produced a potion and signaled his teammates to drink. Once they finished the purification potion, the slowing curse vanished instantly. And seizing the opportunity, they saved the ailing healing mage. The moment the mage was freed from the curse, he immediately cast a healing spell. It marked the next wave of assaults from the skeletal mages. Once again, the attack rained down upon them. Witnessing this, the knight captain quickly invoked his defensive skill, Wide Area Protection, to firmly block the assault from the skeletal mages. Akako, seeing this unfold, immediately notified me. They were all above level 40 and had undergone their second job change. Hearing this, I once again cast the slowing curse upon them, but to no effect. I soon realized that they had just consumed a dispelling potion. granting them immunity to all curses for a brief period. But so what? Even without the slowing curse, I could still easily annihilate them. Thus, I summoned more skeletal warriors to launch an attack. Seeing this, the opposing side hurriedly employed their skills to fend off my undead minions. As a result, they discovered that their attacks inflicted minimal damage on the skeletal warriors. Witnessing this, panic spread among them. What now? How can we possibly destroy these summoned creatures? The captain was equally astonished. Never expecting my power to be so overwhelming. Being able to simultaneously contend with the elemental queen and their entire team was unfathomable. He immediately ordered everyone to retreat. But now, it was too late to escape. I slowly raised my hand, a vibrant blue flame igniting within my grasp. In the next instant, the healing mage was engulfed by the soul fire, suffering horrifically. This sudden scene left everyone in shock. Yet, at that moment, the elemental attack from Mage Bluru crashed down upon us. After the assault concluded, the captain gasped for breath, regaining his composure, and immediately commanded everyone to retreat. But when he looked back, he found his teammates falling one by one. Overwhelmed by despair, he pulled out a potion of recovery and gulped it down. As the blade of the skeletal warrior sliced down towards him, he activated his maximum defense skill without hesitation. In an instant, he braced himself against the elemental onslaught from the skeletal mage and fled into the distance. Observing this, I had no intention of pursuing him. After all, if a knight was determined to escape, capturing him would prove to be a monumental task. Right now, the more pressing matter was to deal with the elemental queen. That formidable artifact was under my command. The skeletal warriors were charging towards her with the remains of fallen players. Just as the elemental queen prepared to unleash her elemental attack once again, the corpse of the mage suddenly appeared right in front of her. In the very next moment, I unleashed my explosive corpse skill, detonating the remains of the sorcerer. The elemental queen's magic was abruptly interrupted. But the tale doesn't end there. Almost immediately, two more undead soared toward me. After 2 rounds of powerful explosions, the elemental queen on her throne was gravely injured, her body marred with wounds.